cultural systems. It's funny how we think of many things as absolute. Like, this is the way it is in the US, this is the way it is around the world. But they're not. They're not talking about simple stuff that's like manners. Talking about actual systems like numbering systems. When I was in Taiwan, I was looking at our seat number. So the three of us have seats 2, 3, 4. So we're next to each other, but not exactly. Because 2 is next to 4 on the train, but 1 is next to 3. How does that make sense, right? Shouldn't the number be next to the number? Like, if you were in seat 2, you would think you're next to seat 1, but actually you're on the other side next to seat 4. Thinking maybe this is Taiwan's relic of Japanese. So the Japanese system is different. And maybe now they've caught on with the rest of the world and figured out and actually name it on the high-speed train so that contiguously numbered seats are actually next to each other. And then I thought about it more and I realized, wait a minute. That's not true, right? So if you look at any house number in the US, evens on one side, odds on the other. And that's what they're doing on the train, evens on one side, odds on the other, right? And the house next to my house is not one number next to it, right? Because if it's odd, it'd be on the other side if my house were even. And I don't think of that as strange, I think of that just as normal. And it's funny because I think in Japan it's actually true where the houses, the number is right next to each other. So in a sense it's all cultural. There's no mathematical basis, I would say, of right or wrong. There doesn't have to be a way of numbering things. It's just what we choose. For our preference, like saying one side is left, one side is right, doesn't make a difference, not really, right? As long as you're consistent. In hospitals, the rooms are always numbered funny. I think the only logic behind it is make it as hard as it is for people to figure out what room is what, right? Do you number it like this way? So say you're beginning in the hall and it goes to the end and it wraps back around, so this number and this number are very different. Do you name it this number 1, 2, 3, 4 and go all the way? Do you start counting not from here but from somewhere back there? I don't know. Do you reset the counting at the end and start with new numbers? I don't know. Remember in my school the numbers were strange too. And I don't know if it's true or not, somebody said that, it's because the two buildings were built by brothers. They're brother architects, but then they had this falling out. So that's why they made purposely sure their numbers did not match with the other building. It's a nice story. Is it true or not? I don't know. It could have just been random chance, right? But if something so basic as numbering is cultural, what isn't, right? This idea of right, wrong, this idea of it has to be this way, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense. There's lots of ways people do things. How do you say one way is right, one way is wrong? How can you say one way is better, one way is worse, right? It's like saying this car is the best, right? It's very fast. Does it also use a lot of gas? Well, yes. Okay, so how is that the best, right? I'm pretty sure you can't have a high-performance sports car, gas powered, that doesn't use a lot of gas. In that sense, my Mazda, which is much more fuel efficient, is better because I save on gas, right? I mean, better in what way, right? There's always pluses and minuses. I think that's the thing with cultural ways of doing things. There's so many things that have a background to them, a history to them, and basically it's cultural. There could be a different way of doing it, and it could be better in some ways, but it change other ways and might make it worse for people. If you change it to numbering all in a row, right, on a train, then people wouldn't know what side of the train they're on anymore. What if they wanted to choose the left side? They're like, okay, let me choose some odd numbers because I like to seat facing forward or backwards or whatever. They choose the wrong side. There's no easy way to tell. You have to look up on a map of the seats to see which seats are on the left. That's sort of weird when you could have just looked at the number and known it from the number before, right? they actually encapsulate information in the number. Whereas you just have all mishmash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there would be no more information coded in a number. And it's easy enough, they're all labeled there, you could figure out what seat you're in anyways, right? Yeah? No? I mean, the main thing is, you go to different places, you see differences. I think the best thing to do is take a step back, take a deep breath, and start thinking, why is it this way? Are there aspects that are better? Maybe there are.